My name's Dave Emerton. I'm one of the founding partners of Access Capital Group, along with my partner, Brian Neary. And of course, this is my associate, Matt Nohl, here with us this afternoon. Just to give you a little background on Access Capital Group, Brian Neary and I met about 17 or 18 years ago. We were both with one of the many Medicare supplement companies in the industry. Brian was our chief actuary, and I headed up the sales and training division, along with the fact that I had my own brokerage operation for about 30 years prior to he and I meeting. And while subsequent to both of us leaving that insurance carrier, we began talking about business opportunities in our marketplace, and both realized that there was a real void in the industry when it came to the ability to get capital, to do whatever it was that an insurance agent, agency, brokerage manager might want to do. The void really was created by the fact that traditional banks, credit unions, those in the lending world, really don't have the knowledge base or the desire to lend money to people in our industry. And it's really because most people in our industry, our primary asset base is our commission accounts, which is an intangible asset. And what we discovered, I mean, I ran into it in my own career over many years, is if you had a need for capital, the conversation sort of went like this. The guy at the bank would say, well, yeah, we'd be interested in lending money to you. Tell me about your business. First off, show me a copy of your W-2. Well, as you know, most of us don't have W-2s. We have 1099 revenue. Well, the next question would be, well, what other assets do you have? Do you own a home? Do you own a building? Well, yeah, I own it. How much equity do you have in it? Well, not a lot. And the conversation kind of ended there. So Brian and I saw an opportunity. We understood how commissions work. We understand really how much, I don't want to say little risk, but we understand that commissions will continue, or at least some portion of them will, for a period of time. And with Brian, by the way, is an actuary by education, so he understands very keenly how these blocks of business persist over time. And we saw an opportunity to start Access Capital Group. And essentially what we have done for the last 15, 16 years is work with insurance agents and agencies that, as I said, have a need for capital. We really don't care what the reason is for that need for capital. It may be, tax liability. It may be to buy leads, to hire agents, to do training, buy a building, expand. Regardless of what the reason is, we're able to put a value on that, on some or all of their future commissions, determine a present day value for those future streams of income, and then in turn provide the capital you need. We joined Integrity as a partner about 1.5 years ago, and that's really created, I think, a whole nother avenue for us and y'all, in that we're now able to not only provide capital for immediate needs, but also to work with those that are looking to, maybe you're nearing the end of your career and you're looking to retire. And that's always been a problem for guys like us in the insurance business is, yeah, it's a great business, but how do you unwind your career? And now that we have a relationship with all the various partners within the Integrity organization, we're now able to really dig down deep and work with those that are either ready to retire or planning to retire in the next few years, and put a value on that block of business, that agency, and transition it so that now not only you can get the capital, but you can assure that those clients are going to be continue to be taken care of the way you took care of them in the past. Yeah. So that's kind of what we do, is we just simply monetize future revenue streams from your commission accounts, put a present day value on them, and help you get the capital you're looking for.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for bringing us up to speed there and staying with us, or me staying with you. How many books have you guys bought, do you think, in the last 15 years? Do you have an idea?
Oh, I would say,
thousands.
Yeah, a few thousand.
Yeah.
Probably close to 2,500 books of business over the last 15 years.
Yeah, it's really, really an amazing thing. I know the few that we have bought, the hardest thing for me was putting a value on that book. And so now that we have this relationship together, what an asset that's been to have you guys help us with that part. And I don't know of anybody that's done more than Access Capital. So let's jump in. We got a few. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, John, one other thing too is that those we a lot of times get questions about, well, how big a block of business do you have to have? And I would tell you, we have bought very small blocks of business. We bought enormous blocks of business. So the size of blocks of business really is not a barrier. Small deals, large deals, pretty much all size.
Yeah, great. Well, we've got a few slides here. We're just going to kind of tag team it together and discuss, and hopefully it'll help and answer a lot of questions for folks out there. But reasons to sell your book, just name a few or give some scenarios, guys. Like, it's not just always when you're ready to retire, you're thinking about retiring. And you kind of alluded a little bit to this, Dave, in your intro there, but give us some comments on that.
Well, the array of reasons are mind-boggling. We have, I would say, the most common thread that we see is income taxes. We're all independent agents. We're all supposed to be making quarterly estimates. We're all by nature very optimistic. Next quarter is always going to be better. We sadly run into that a lot, where someone has a need for capital for income taxes, debt, trying to retire debt. But in a lot of cases, it's what I would say is a positive reason. Guys are looking to grow. As the call center world grows, people are looking to add more seats in their call center. They're looking to hire more agents. They're looking to buy more leads. And they just have an immediate need for capital for those deals. But we've paid for weddings. We've paid for putting an engine in some guy's race car. All kinds of things. So, and we don't care. That's the other thing. The bank wants to know what you want the money for and a full business plan and everything. We don't care about that.
Yeah. I think you initially you think it's always you're going to completely sell out and you're going to sell your book, and when a guy's ready to retire, that's normally the way it's going to be. But it's kind of been amazing to me as we've gotten more into this, the agents out there that are maybe just looking to just sell a book. They have a book over here, they have a need for capital, they're not getting out, but they want to just sell off a book that they have for that immediate need and just keep right on rolling. Matt, didn't you tell me one time you had some guy that had sold you guys 18 times? Am I embellishing that, or?
No, that is 100% accurate. And but he's kind of built that into his model of how his deal operates. Is he builds up a book, sells the renewals, builds up another one. He's really good at lead generation. So he kind of leverages that through our process to kind of snowball his agency and kind of recoup those future commissions now.
Yeah. Neat. All right, Jason, let's hit the next slide here and get going here. So what do you need, fellas? What does an agent or agency need, whether it's we're looking at a retirement scenario, which I know there's a lot of folks on this call that maybe fits them, or they're thinking it's coming up or it's in the next few years. But also for all the other reasons that you guys were talking about, what do you need to get your book or your business valued? What's an agent need to do for that?
Yeah, so I can touch on this. So when we value these books of business, we look at our model that we use looks down to the policyholder level. So we value each policy within a book by itself, essentially. And so what we found the best way to get that information is through commission statements provided by the carriers. There's a couple ways that we can get that data. One, we can have the agent send us the last 12 months of commission statements in a digital format, or we can work with the agent, get access to the agent portals, and go in and actually pull down all the data that we need to value the book. We work in these agent portals constantly, so we have a lot of tricks that we've learned over the last 12, 13 years. And so, that's really the most important piece. Beyond that, in some instances, we'll need a copy of the contract with each carrier, or a copy of the commission schedules. But we rely on the commission statements to do most of the valuation. And we like to be as helpful as we can in getting that data. I know that's kind of there's a lot there. And so any way that we can help the agents that are looking for evaluation to make it as easy as possible, we're absolutely there to help out.
So just on that right there, do you have any pushback from agents or any reluctance? They say, God, I'm a little hesitant to give you my user ID and password for my carriers. How do you address that? Or what assurance can you give those guys, Matt?
Yeah. So, and thanks for bringing that up. So before we do anything, we'll send over a confidentiality agreement.
Okay.
That pretty much spells out that any data that's provided to us is strictly for evaluation purposes. So it's essentially just a deal saying that we're doing an appraisal of your book, and none of this data will be used for any other purpose. So that, and I think most agents, some agents are, they like to pull the information themselves. So it's completely up to them to make that decision. So
just to add to that, we have on occasion had an agent or two say, well, I don't want to show you everything I have. And I guess the analogy we would use is it's kind of like buying a piece of real estate. We have to know where the lot lines are before we can value something. And so I get the hesitance, but it's really important to be able to put an accurate valuation on something.
Absolutely. And that confidentiality in any transaction, that kind of covers the bases there and should give everybody comfort. All right, let's go. Let's hit the next one, guys.
Just, real quick, we do have a related question on that note. How long does the valuation process typically take?
So once we have all the information, typically it takes us, depending on the size and how many carriers there are, once we have all the information, it usually takes about 3 to 4 business days to get the business valued and an offer generated. Sometimes the data will trickle in, which can kind of spread that out a little bit. But once we have everything, our valuation team's pretty quick, and we can kind of churn these things out, very quickly. So, and I think that's important too, because we know that these commissions are kind of on a time schedule. And so we want them to be the valuation to be as current as it can be.
Sure.
That's where the value's at. We want to offer on what's there right now and make sure that we're getting the most value in that offer that we can.
Yeah. Okay, good. Anything else? We good there, buddy?
Some of these we might hit at the end, but David asks, can you pull the statements down with the agent over Zoom?
Yeah, we haven't done that before, but we definitely could. It's not, we've done it over the phone before where we've actually been running into this a little bit more lately with a lot of the carriers having dual authentication to log in.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of help we'll need on that side if we go that route. But I mean, that's something we can, if it comes to, yeah, we'd be happy to do that.
Okay, great. Thanks, buddy. Let's keep marching here. Okay, how do you value a book, a business? You know, you mentioned there at the beginning that you really go down to the individual policy. Why don't you expand on that a little bit, Matt? Like if you're looking at Mrs. Jones and you see that she just bought this policy from her agent a month ago compared to one that's been on the books 5 years, just kind of drill down on that a little bit.
Right. Yeah. So the information that we pull out of those commission statements there's about 5 different data points that we use to feed into our model. Just like you were saying, the effective date of the policy, the type of the policy, the carrier, maybe the state that they're in. Those are all pieces of data that we use to feed in to be able to project out the book. So we'll use the effective date, policy number, or premium, commission rate, current commission rate, to then project out that policy while also using the commission schedules, which are part of the contract. So we'll project out that each individual policy over, the next, for whenever, to arrive at what its current value is. And so I think the more data we have on each policy is better. And it really helps us sharpen our pencil the more data we can get. So,
and I might add, I think maybe this is a little simpler way to look at it. The explanation I usually give is that we take those data points that Matt's talking about and we project that policy out to determine what it'll generate in the way of revenue, first in a perfect world, if nothing happens to any of those policies. Then we apply discounts for persistency, for death rates, lapse rates. In some cases, you have policies that have survivorship benefits or waiver of premium, things of that nature. So we look at claim statistics relative to that too, and basically back into a present day value for that future commission stream on a policy by policy basis.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the first one that we did with you guys, what impressed me was in the purchase agreement, there's a list of every policy that's purchased. Got the policy number, every one is listed there in that agreement. So yeah, it makes sense. We got any other questions here, Jason, that we need to hit, or are we good?
Are all types of policies used to determine the value?
You might want to talk on that a little bit, the difference between a Med Supp, a long-term care, final expense, ACA, even. There's a lot of different types in here.
Generally, I would say we are able to work with anything that's individually underwritten, guaranteed, renewable, and has a vested future commission. So specifically, we work with Medicare Supplement, Medicare Advantage, all the supplemental types of products, critical illness, cancer, accident, hospital indemnity, of course, long-term care, short-term care, life insurance products, traditional whole life, term life, a lot of final expense life, term life, if it has a renewal stream. A lot of times the term products are just, first year only, but
right.
If anything that has a vested renewal stream in it, we can value.
Yeah.
We don't do anything in the property casualty arena. We are starting to do a little bit of group health business in the retiree marketplace, because we have partners that can work with and service some of the group products. Really don't do much in the underage health market. It's just so volatile. It's hard to know what you're working with.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, another question here, topic. What affects the value of your business? So like we've touched on a couple of these things a little bit, but what are things, let's say I'm me. I'm almost 63, and let's say I'm thinking in the next couple of years I want to retire. I've got a book that I've worked hard for. What are some things that I can do, guys, to maximize the value of my book right now? If I know I'm not ready to sell it right yet, but I think I'm going to, what are some things that I could do that's really going to help? And then adversely, what are things that you see that hurt a book when it comes into your door and you're looking at it?
Yeah. So the main driver of what we can place a value on the book is one, the product type and the commission schedule. So if there's any tiers in the commission schedule, like for example, like for Medicare supplement, if there's a lot of policies that are going to cut down to a lower commission at the 7th or 11th year, and a majority of those policies are in the 5th or 6th year, I mean that goes in kind of just through the model. There's only so much of the commission life left at its current level. So, and John, we've worked with agents before where they were able to go in and actually kind of move those policies, renew those commission, the new commission stream to the higher level, and that adds a ton of value to the book. I know it's not always possible with all policyholders, but that the main driver, I guess what I'm getting at is just time, where a policy's at in its duration and what the commission structure looks like from point of sale. So
really, just if I can keep that book as fresh as possible, if the example you use in a Med Supp book, if a lot of these policies are getting in their 4th, 5th, or 6th year, and I've got the ability to go back, put that customer in a new carrier, a new company, give them a fresh rate, a reduced rate, but give me now 6 fresh years or 5 fresh years, it's really going to enhance the value
a lot
when they're ready to turn it loose. It's a big deal, guys. And I tell you what happens with retirees is a lot of times they maybe should have pulled the trigger on selling their book a couple of years before, and they've waited 2 or 3 years and they haven't done a whole lot. And that really hurts their book in the final outcome of it, rather than if they would have sold it 2 years ago, they would have got a higher value for it because it was in early years.
Yeah, we've used the saying a couple of times that many times a block of business isn't necessarily like fine wine. It doesn't get better with age.
Yeah.
As
right.
the commission life runs out, the value decreases.
Yeah. Good. We got a couple questions here, buddy.
I think most of these we can hit at the end.
Okay. All right, this is a big one because we're senior marketers, we're a senior FMO, and we do all the things, Dave, that you guys have been talking about. But still, Med Supp, Med Advantage is what drives us for sure. So let's just talk a little bit about that. With Med Advantage just growing. The commissions are getting so high in it. Lifetime commissions, typically, I think, with most products. How do you see it out there in the books that you're buying, Med Supp versus Med Advantage? What's just some comments that you can make on that?
I'll let you take that. You look at more of them than I do.
Well, I'd say we are seeing a trend of subs converting to Advantage at a much higher rate than we have before. And I think you're right. I think the market's kind of stabilized back from before, where there were a lot of smaller carriers. They've it's kind of settled out to where, and they're enhancing that product a lot more. There's a lot more perks than there used to be. They're trying to retain, and it's a 0 premium deal in most cases. So I mean that's a pretty good sell. But so we're we're definitely see value in both of them. I think in our mind, the commission structure on Advantage obviously is lifetime. Med Supp has tiers, but I think that as it sits now, we're definitely seeing the market trend towards Advantage, but at the same time, we're looking at a bunch of Med Supp books as we speak. So
of course, yeah, we've got both. But like, if you, not trying to nail you down here, but just a little bit, if you had one side by side, is buying it, is a Med Supp in year one compared to a Med Advantage in year one with the same age person, are they like equal in value in the purchase agreement, or would you think one would be worth more than the other?
They're going to be pretty close, to be honest. The Advantage might trend a little higher, but from our model, yeah, it's essentially they're almost the same. If you're just looking at apples to apples, first year policies, that's going to come out pretty close to the same.
Okay.
So other than that, I do think that we're seeing the market trending towards Advantage and policies kind of sticking a little bit more.
Sticking better than what they did a few years ago.
Yeah, and not moving, from plan to plan as much as all the networks are expanding and everything. So I'd say ask me in a couple of years, and I think the Advantage will be a little bit more valuable, but as it sits now, there's still a little bit that we're kind of plugging through the data on. So
okay, I think we've got a couple questions here we can read real quick. Jason, if you got them.
So on a related note, do you find more or less value from Med Supp company to Med Supp company? So is there any variation if you're buying a book from, say, Aetna versus Cigna, or just different carriers?
Well, there's a couple different things that will affect it, and that's pretty much where the state that the policy was written in, which that determines the commission structure of the future commissions. That's a big driver, and we also look to see if there are any or have been any rate increases and how competitive that product is where it's at now. And so those are probably the two main drivers that I would say. Do you have any?
I mean, we do look to see, we've been doing this for a long time, and we have established, we've seen some trends of how certain companies price, and those that tend to be more aggressive early tend to probably perform more poorly than those that price appropriately in the beginning and just don't get nailed with rate increases down the road. It's really initial pricing strategy that determines how those things perform, and we have a pretty good record of how companies are handling their pricing. Obviously, I think the more established carriers do a better job of pricing and maintaining rates than maybe some of the smaller carriers do. So yeah, there are certainly companies that we like better than others. Not sure I could sit here and name them, but it does affect it.
You could name them, Dave, but you'd be in trouble if you named them. Hey, let me read this one. This is from my buddy. It's from John. It says, prior to this partnership with Access Capital, I've considered selling my book to New Horizons with the understanding that New Horizons would provide the continuing service to my clients. With Access Capital in the picture, who would I be selling the book to, and who would service my clients going forward? So that's a great question, John. And really, I look at us working with Access Capital as we are partners. We're both a part of Integrity. And we really lean hard on Matt and Dave and their team to come up with the value. As far as then after that's established, and let's say we're agreed on the value, if you're in our model, ours is we work it like an agency. So we bring those customers in and we service them all from here and run it just like an agency. Luke and his team do a really good job of that. Nothing has changed there. But Matt can tell you, there's a lot of guys that will come to us. They really don't fit our model. And I just push them right over to Matt and his team. It works better for them. And the flip side has been true too, that they've had some that maybe, especially on somebody that's retiring, they're really concerned about their customers getting hands-on agent. Well, then we try to make that work here at New Horizons. So it's just really what works best.
Yep. And
Yeah. Well, and I think you bring up a good point too, that there's kind of two different paths you can go down when we do these valuations. There's one, is it an agent that's looking to retire?
Yeah.
Kind of make sure that, you know, it's your life's work, make sure that all your policyholders are going to be taken care of, and you're essentially selling your entire agency or for
Right.
veterans. So that's the kind of the retiring agent model. The second one is if you need capital for whatever reason,
Yes.
you don't have to sell your whole book of business. We can just buy
Right.
one or two or whatever
Right.
to get you the capital you need, where
Right.
you would still be the agent of record with those policyholders. They nothing would have changed. You know, they're not
Really
made
good point.
any
Yeah.
changes have been made. So those are kind of the two different paths that we work
Yeah.
with and work through.
Yeah.
And but yeah, either way, we're essentially working with New Horizons to facilitate the purchase, and you know, all of the servicing and everything would be done by you guys. So
Right. And you just hit it right on the nose. Another guy, Dave, had asked kind of a similar question, which you just addressed there. So thanks for that, brother. Okay, timing, now or later. Let's just talk about this a little bit, and then we'll wrap up the questions. And I think we've about done it here. But what's your thoughts on that, fellas? Now or later? If a guy is, you know, if it's in the retirement model, it's amazing to me how many will reach out to me and say, John, I'm just, you know I'm not ready yet. I think it's a couple of years down the road. But then I've seen others that I look at it and they kind of took that approach, but now they would have been so much better if they would have sold 2 years ago. Their book had so much more value than it does if they're not really staying aggressive out there and selling. What's your thoughts, guys, on time?
Well, I agree with your assessment. If you're planning to retire in the next 2-3 years and you're going to continue to be adding a lot of, you know, if you're really going to aggressively continue to work and grow that book of business, then it might make sense to wait. But if you're just going to phase in, you know, kind of gradually step away, and you're not going to be adding a lot of new business to it, if you're not going to be repositioning some of these policies to create more value, you'd probably be better off sell it now while it's got as much value as it could have. So it's kind of a personal thing, you know, how aggressively, how dedicated are you to continuing to grow this thing?
Yeah.
And if you're really going to hit it hard next 3-4 years, you might want to hang on to it. But we all know as we get older that, you know, I'm 68, you know, you get to a point where maybe you just don't want to hit it as hard as you have been. And that book's probably never going to be worth more than it is today. So
it's really true.
well, and John too, one thing I'll say is, you know, it has been nice working with you and your team, where we're able to kind of be pretty flexible on how we structure some of these purchases we've done. You know, we've worked with agents that are like kind of quasi ready to hang it up, but not quite ready.
Right.
Where we buy, you know, we value the book. We say, okay, well, this is like where your most value of your book is.
Right.
So we'll buy this from you now. We'll get everything set up. So the commissions that we didn't buy flow through New Horizons, but pay out to the agent until forever, until they're ready to sell. But they also can, you know, renew those policies or move them or whatever. And then once they're ready to finally pull the trigger, everything's already kind of set up
Yeah.
with you, where they can just essentially pick a date and we value the remaining book and then nothing sunset.
I'm glad you brought that up. I really, really like that model, and we've done that a time or two, and we probably should really hone in on it, because there's a lot of guys, they're ready, but they're not ready. And when, like in this instance, when we were able to go ahead and purchase the most attractive part of the book, but the other half, that agent can still receive all the income on that. And that gives him a few years, let's say, to bring it up to speed where it needs to be, to kind of bring it current. And then we buy the second half of the book a couple of years later down the road. He's really maximizing the value of his book. He's going to get the absolute most value for it. And he's still receiving income on the back end on the part that we didn't buy up front. I really like it.
Right. And,
fair for everybody.
The nice thing about it too is that it's essentially, once that second book once they're ready to, just officially call it a day.
Yeah.
It's essentially just a flick of a switch.
It is.
And it's almost immediate that the payout goes out. So I think that's a really good model, and one I imagine we're going to use a lot going forward. Yeah. So
you stole that from us, I think.
That was my idea.
That is your idea. All right, we got a few questions here that I think we'll wrap it up, guys.
Yeah, we have quite a few. Let's see. Do you buy books of business primarily made of term policies?
Yeah, as long as they have, if there's renewals on it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you value a book of business with 25% Med Supp and 75% annuity?
You say annuity?
Yeah.
Well, again, it depends on, the annuity product's a little bit like the term product. As you know, a lot of annuities don't have a renewal stream in them. So if there's a vested renewal paid on those products, we can, we have actuarial data to value those. We just don't see a lot of annuity business with a renewal stream in it. But if it's there, we have all the data available to value it just like we would any other individual product.
Yeah, I tell you, we've done a couple that the majority of their income was residual income, like Med Supp. That's what it was. But they also had a pretty sizable amount of annuity policyholders that were on the books. But like Dave said, it's not generating any income, but it still has value. So what we contractually did with that agent was we said, we're going to hold off these, we'll call it 20 annuity policies that you've got on the books. And over the next 5 years, if we're able to renew that, where there is a new commission on it, then we'll pay you a portion of that commercial, of that commission, and give them a reward for that, which was fair. It was good for us and it's good for them. And, that's about the only way you can structure something like that. There's value there. Somebody's going to work it, but you can't just pay a bunch of money up front for something that's not generating.
Yeah. And quite frankly, that's again, another, real plus in us working as partners, because we can partner to get maximum value out of that book. Yeah. We really are somewhat limited. We can only value commissions we can see today.
Yeah.
We know there's value in those blocks of annuity policyholders, but we can't actually see it. So being able to partner with you to kind of take a two-pronged approach to, there's a value today and a value tomorrow.
Yeah, we love it. Yeah, thank you. Okay, what else, buddy?
Okay, do you guys charge any sort of fee to run the valuation?
No. So all of our valuations are free. So there's no charge. We'll take a look at it as many times as you want, as long as it's not like every day. But we've valued books of business for agents 4 times before they've decided to sell. And so, that's what we're in the business of doing, is valuing books of business, and we don't charge any fees for the valuations. So
that's great. That's great. Because, a lot of guys will say, especially if they're getting into that retirement, they just want to know, I'm not ready yet, but I'm thinking here it's coming up, but what is it worth right now? So that's good to know that you guys will do that. And that's a wonderful service, guys. You ever
Right. And at the end of the day too, even if we don't come to terms on a sale, at least you'll know what the fair market value for your book of business is now. And if there are things you could do to possibly increase the purchase price by moving policies or adding new policies or whatever, at least you know where it sits now and kind of has a benchmark for going forward.
Yeah.
One thing I might add too, I in the 15, 16 years we've been doing this, I mean, I sold insurance my whole career, and the whole concept of selling your renewal commissions, quite frankly, is a little bit counterintuitive. That's not how we're brought into the business, with the idea of, I'm going to build this up and sell some or all of it. We think we're going to build this huge block of business and retire. That's how we come into it. So, there's generally some hesitancy in, I guess, fear factor. Are these guys looking to just steal our block of business from us? And this is not just lip service. We want to pay as much as is reasonable for a block of business, because quite frankly, probably 90% of our business comes from either referral or repeat clients. And, just because somebody's maybe down on their luck or needs capital or whatever, we're not in the business of stealing somebody's renewals. We want to pay a fair value, because we're not going to have referrals and we're not going to have repeat clients if that occurs. And so that's just kind of a little public service ad on our part. But we want to be as fair as possible.
You bet. What else, buddy?
Okay, do you have any type of buyout program which pays an ongoing percentage of renewals as opposed to an outright purchase of the book? For example, you take assignment of the book and 75% of renewal to the selling broker for a set number of years.
How would you take?
Well, I can hit it from my side, because if you're talking about buying a book as earned, like saying we're going to make a list of these policyholders and their policies, and as long as we keep them current or we rewrite them in the same product, you're going to benefit from that. I mean, that fits our model. I mean, that fits us probably more so than Dave and Matt's. But yeah, I was talking with an agent earlier today from out of state, but he's trying to work with a friend, and you got to have a lot of trust in that model. I mean, you're still going to have a contract, but you're counting, if you're the one selling, you're really counting on that guy to continue to work hard and to be honest, if it's paid as earned. Whereas Dave's model, you come up with an agreement, you come up with a value that you both agree on, they're writing you a check, right? So it's clean, it's done, you're getting exactly, there's no doubt about it what you're going to get. But it can be done, and it's not a bad way to go, but both parties have really got to have a lot of trust in each other, I think, for that to work good.
Yeah, well, and John, I'd add too that I think this goes back to how, just with us working with New Horizons, we've been able to become pretty flexible with how we structure. Each deal we've done, I think, has been a little bit different, just structure wise. And so we're always open to anything as long as it makes sense. As long as it makes sense. So
yeah. Okay. Anything else, guys?
We have a few, but I don't know how you guys are looking on time on your end.
We're kind of at the end of our deal. We're past 45 minutes, but you guys, we got a couple more if you want to hit them. I want to say something because people probably want to go. So, and then we can maybe answer these really quick. This is part one of a 4-part series. So thank you guys for kicking this off. Access Capital is going to be with us on the next 3 as well. But like our next one is going to be July the 5th. Everybody that's on this is going to be getting information about it and a sign in and all of that. So you don't have to worry about it. But what it's going to be about is tax strategies. And Andy Thomas, our accountant, really great guy. He's going to be the man for that session to really get down in the weeds a little bit and how you can maximize some things that you can do to really maximize that side of things, where everything is obviously totally above board, but you're going to pay the least amount of tax that you can. It's really important. It's a big deal. So you want to make sure and listen to that. The next session will be kind of the whole process, the steps, what it looks like if you do step into it, what you can expect, how it's going to roll. And then the last one, the fourth one, I think will really be interesting, is we're going to try to get some guys that have already done this, whether it's retired. We'll see if Matt, Dave can pull up a few of their buddies that have done this, and we'll get them on here with us and do some testimonials or how's it going. That one might be a little dicey, but we're going to try it. And I think it'll really help, really be a good series and hopefully really help people. So I'm going to try to answer a couple more, fellas, and then we'll get out of here.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. How many years of commissions do you put into the valuation, and how does the payout look, single pay or over, say, 5 years?
So we project out the policies for the life of the policy. And then, like Dave was saying, we apply lapse and mortality assumptions to that projection. So essentially, we project it out as long as the commission schedule tells us it goes. And then we layer on the mortality and lapse. For I guess the payment, I'm assuming that means from a lump sum, or if you want to split it up, the amount would be the same. It's just we can kind of figure out what portions want to be paid at what time. But the purchase price wouldn't really change in that scenario.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, on MAPD policies sold, the commissions are assigned, but does the original agent have to keep certifying to keep those renewals going?
It's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. So when we purchase the MAPDs or PDPs, CMS requires that whoever is receiving the commissions has to be the agent of record on the policies. So in that scenario, New Horizons would become the agent of record on the policies, and you would no longer need to do any certifications going forward.
And it depends a little bit on the carrier too. In some cases, each client has to actually be notified who the new record is.
Yeah.
Some carriers don't.
Yeah. Good point.
I always thought in the beginning when we first started doing these, I thought that was a CMS requirement, but it's obviously a company by company decision.
I think it's interpretation of the requirements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys?
The short answer is once they're assigned, the assigning agent no longer has to stay certified going forward.
Unless they're going to write new business.
Yeah, unless they're going to write new business.
And in that case, you get recontracted and then everything. So.
Okay, do you guys work with other integrity partners similar to how you do with us? For instance, if an agent has clients in the Virginia, North Carolina area?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can work with any and all integrity partners.
Okay.
Now, some don't have servicing capability. We can't necessarily, especially with MAPDs and Part D plans, we have to make sure that the company is okay with who we're assigning it to make sure that they're capable and authorized to be a servicing entity. But I guess the short answer to your question is yes, we can work with all of our partners.
But a longer answer is we go anywhere in the country right here from beautiful Illinois. So we just closed on one in Georgia, so that's no big deal.
Yeah,
we can not anywhere.
Yeah, it's not driven by state requirements. New Horizons we can assign all of that business to New Horizons,
and that's exactly what we're working on right now.
Yeah.
Guys, do the intangibles factor into the valuation, like having a complete CRM with contact info, notes, and emails, and a strong referral pipeline with hundreds of financial advisors, things like that?
I guess I would answer that by saying it probably doesn't affect the initial valuation on the in-force business, what's currently there, but it certainly plays into the ultimate value of the block of business with a partner. And of course, we bring integrity into this fold too, because they see the value in that as well. So sure. Yes, the more data, it does add value. Certainly doesn't detract from the value.
Yeah, well, and we can use some of that data as well to kind of fine tune the lapse assumptions that we're using to make sure that we're kind of building out a model that really reflects your business and how it performs to maximize as much as we can pay for it. So it definitely doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I can say that type of data definitely helps us if we're servicing the business.
There was one question I saw pop up that I thought was important. I think it was John asked if there's a certain time of year. I think that he was saying to do these deals, and there is one important kind of cutoff that we have with, and it's not by our decision, but more the decision of the carriers is on Med Advantage in PDP. The carriers will essentially go into a blackout period between, was it? I think it starts
September 1st. It's kind of an arbitrary date.
Through the end of the year, where they won't do any transfers during that time. And so MA, the cutoff would essentially, we would need probably a month ahead of that to be able to value it, get all the paperwork and everything done, and get it closed before open enrollment. So I just wanted, I saw that pop up. I thought that was a really good question.
Wrap it up there.
Yeah, let's just wrap it up there. Guys, if you feel like you didn't get your questions answered, just call me or email me, and I can get them to Matt or Dave and make sure that you feel like you got clarity if you're, got some questions. But guys, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it. I thought it was good, and hopefully it was helpful, and be looking, everybody, for the next session on this same subject, focusing on tax advantages, coming July 5th. So thanks, everybody. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.